Buonasera e benvenuti nella nostra edizione.
Good evening and welcome to our special edition of Europe's Choice. An earthquake has swept away the old Europe, incapable of reacting to anti-austerity anger. And here is the new face of Europe. The European election results brought a highly fragmented parliament, where the centre-right and centre-left are the main political forces, and they'll be hostages to the new members, nationalists and Eurosceptic populists. Will Europe be able to change and respond to the message of its citizens? We'll be discussing that today with Hugo Brady of the London School of Economics, Marianne Doni of the European Studies Institute in Brussels, and Christophe Garach of Europolitics. But first of all, let's review the main results of these elections.
The rise of populist and far-right Eurosceptic parties in the EU elections has given food for thought to the political establishment. But these disparate parties are unlikely to be able to mount a serious threat as they appear incapable of working together in the next parliament. France felt the worst of the voters' rebellion against the European Union, where Marine Le Pen's Front National came top of the polls. The FN intends to ally itself with Austria's Freedom Party, which also made strong gains. People no longer want to be led from abroad, to submit to laws they haven't voted for, or obey commissioners who haven't the legitimacy of being directly elected. UKIP, which won the vote in Britain, has ruled out an alliance with the FN because its leader says the FN is too anti-Semitic. UKIP got 27% of the vote, despite having no manifesto and only arguing on one issue: leaving the European Union.
Well, my dreams become a reality, and despite the onslaught we faced over the last few weeks, as if the whole world was against us, the British public have stood firm, they've backed UKIP, and we've won a national election. I'm over the moon.
Even in countries where austerity has not been applied with such force, like Denmark, the extreme right prospered. The anti-immigrant People's Party won there with 26.7%, but again want no truck with France's FN because of its perceived anti-Semitism and anti-gay opinions. In Greece, where the EU's austerity policies have cut the deepest, the extreme right-wing Golden Dawn has also made gains, in part countered by Syriza's gains for the left. But Syriza campaigned for a different Europe, not no Europe at all.
So, to talk about this Eurosceptic wave in UK, Mr. Hugo Brady of the London School of Economics is joining us from Paris. Welcome. Do you think that UKIP voters were voting only against the EU or also against the current government?
No, I think there was certainly a vote against the political establishment in the UK, certainly. I don't think it was solely a Eurosceptic issue. I think it was linked to immigration. I think it was linked to a sense that people have, which is also shared in other countries, that certain things are never really going to change unless people take radical action.
Who were the voters of the UKIP?
Well, I do think that they are the disaffected, what you might call blue-collar workers and lower middle class who do not benefit necessarily from some of the benefits of the recent immigrations, who may have been out of a job for the last couple of years, who are in many cases not well educated, living in housing estates. You know, the typical class that votes for populist parties everywhere. So
British Prime Minister David Cameron said the message of discontent about the role of the EU was absolutely received and understood. Should we expect a change in the European policy of David Cameron?
Well, his European policy is already quite negative. But there is a rumour that at the next European Council in June, all the EU leaders are going to get together and see if they can offer the UK something that would actually change its debate or make its debate a bit more favourable. But I'm just not sure how successful that's going to be.
What could be?
This has always been the problem with the British for the last couple of years. They want change, they want reform, but they don't have any specific ideas about how they could actually be happy in a reformed EU, what exactly that would look like. They seem to make demands.
Could David Cameron ask for more power to give him be back to the national parliament?
Sure, more power, less regulation, less social policy, but this is diametrically opposed to what a lot of other countries want. For example, I think a lot of the voters of the National Front, they want more social protection, not less.
So David Cameron has promised as well to organise a referendum about the UK membership of the EU in 2017 if he's re-elected. What could push him to do it earlier?
I think a leadership battle. I think a challenge to his leadership by the already quite powerful backbench element in his party, which is extremely Eurosceptic, and which will take these results as confirming their worst fears, that UKIP will steal seats off the Conservatives in a general election. So I think this is a real danger.
Okay, let's talk about Nigel Farage. Nigel Farage said he doesn't want to form a group with Marine Le Pen and his National Front, but they share the same concerns, for instance, against immigration. Will they be able to cooperate, or are they more in competition at this moment to take the lead of the Eurosceptics in the European Parliament?
I think they're more in competition right at the moment because they may be able to do deals with other Eurosceptics in the Parliament, but just not with each other. I don't think that we're going to see a Franco-British entente cordiale for the Eurosceptics, which would be a great irony. I think that, but I think they will be forced to cooperate on an issue-by-issue basis, because in order to get resources in the Parliament, you do have to cooperate, even with the other nationalists. Historically, however, nationalists have not been able to cooperate well. Often their alliances have collapsed or fallen apart.
Briefly, do you think they will be able, both of them, to form a group?
UKIP have already ruled that out. They said under no circumstances will they work with the National Front, because I'm afraid in Britain the words National Front evoke a very similar. There was a National Front in the UK in the 1970s, which was basically almost a neo-Nazi group. So it would be very difficult for UKIP to enter an alliance with the National Front without losing support at home.
Thank you, Mr. Brady, for your participation in our special program of the European election results.
Back to our studio in Brussels with Marianne Doni, Director of the Institute of European Studies here, and Christophe Garach, Chief Editor of Europolitics. Marianne Doni, could you answer the question, are we facing the same type of Euroscepticism that we see in France and the United Kingdom? The reply is, I think their philosophies are quite different between Farage and Le Pen. You don't have the same touch as UKIP. I don't think they're going to constitute a group. But they share the same Euroscepticism. There are common points, she says, but the route is different. Marine Le Pen is more rooted in the traditional extreme right, while UKIP is much more looking for independence, the independence of the UK, and a specific status for the UK. They can share common concerns, but I don't think as parties they can be in close terms, close relations. We're expecting, the question is, we're expecting Marine Le Pen in Brussels on Wednesday. What would she say? Christophe Garach says, well, first of all, to remind us she won the elections. It was a triumph in France. Results that create a political earthake in France. And we'll feel it for many years. And she will continue her negotiations to try to constitute a group in the European Parliament, a coalition, but of course it'll be quite difficult. She can have the support of Vlaams Belang in Belgium, the FPO in Austria and some others. Geert Wilders in the Netherlands, yes, but could she form a group with at least 25 members? Yes, maybe, but from 7 different countries, it will be much more difficult. The question today is, with this surge of Euroscepticism, are some issues in danger in terms of European integration? The answer is, let's be more subtle. We speak about the rise of Euroscepticism. It's true there is a rise, but don't forget the 4 main parties, the 4 main traditional parties, Europhile parties, the ones in favour of more European construction, the EPP, the Socialists, the Liberals and the Greens. They continue to represent more than 70%, almost 70% of the whole European Parliament. The harmful capacity of strength of the capacity of the other groups is quite limited. What we could fear is that some of the ideas pushed by these Eurosceptic parties could be reclaimed by the traditional parties in issues such as immigration.
Sur le papier, là encore,
is the Schengen zone in jeopardy? Christophe Garach says yes, in theory. If you listen to the pre-electoral statements, they said we will not touch the fundamental freedoms and the free movement in the European Union. But that's the paradox today. In the European Parliament, the pro-EU bloc will still be in the majority, quite a good majority, 400, 500 MEPs out of 751, that's a lot, quite a lot, but in the member states the earthquake will be different, and it might force the governments to adopt much more Eurosceptic discourse. So let's go and see what's happening in Greece.
The European elections in Greece have marked a turning point in its relationship with the EU. Voters largely split themselves between Eurosceptic parties, Syriza on the far left and neo-Nazi Golden Dawn, who won 3 seats. However, Alexis Tsipras's party got the lion's share of the vote. Tomorrow, Europe will be talking about Syriza. The Europeans celebrate the defeat of austerity in the country that the European leadership chose as the guinea pig of the crisis. We send a message of solidarity, resistance and hope to the whole of Europe. In light of the results, Tsipras wasted no time in calling for general elections, saying the outcome robbed the government of any political or moral legitimacy, as our correspondent in Athens explains. Syriza's supporters received the results of the European as well as the regional elections with great enthusiasm. They strongly believe that their victory will entail rapid political developments in the country.
Madame Denis, qui sont donc les électeurs de ce parti d'extrême gauche?
Who are those who voted for the extreme left Syriza? All those who in Greece for the last 5 years have been suffering from the crisis, the first victims of the austerity measures that had to be adopted, with the huge amount of people suffering there, including youth. It's not a surprise. There's no longer a middle class in Greece. The health system is collapsing, so it's not a surprise that the Greeks turned to what is the only party who would give them some hopes and say we're going to renegotiate the rigor measures, the austerity measures. Alexis Tsipras asked for early elections yesterday. Could Greece still respect its commitments towards its European partners in terms of its debt? For the moment, early elections, we're not sure they're going to take place. Of course, Syriza got quite good results, but the reigning party, the government, quite managed to resist quite a lot and may well do so. So in a few months, yes, maybe there might be an early election, but until the 1st of July, they have the presidency of the EU, so nothing will change. Future commitments, will they be respected? Well, that's what Alexis Tsipras kept saying during his campaign, and it worked. It worked. You can wonder, where do those voters come from? These are former voters for PASOK, the Socialist Party, and they decided to vote for this wild guy who speaks very well. Question from Margarita. Maybe they could scale down the level of the debt in the next Eurogroup meeting, but first I'd like to know, what is the contribution, what will the weight of the extreme left be in the European Parliament? Marianne Donny replies they did not lose a lot of their members in the European Parliament. They have about 40, 45 MEPs. So it's quite a lightweight bloc in combative force in the European Parliament. Their real effective influence is quite limited. Question, but will the socialists who lost some seats ally with them? Reply from Garach, yes, it'll be on a case-by-case basis. So yes, maybe their group, the United Left group, in which you have Syriza MEPs, might be able to negotiate on some particular issues. On what, we don't know. Question, concerning the same elections, could we challenge the austerity policies, which was debated such a lot throughout Europe? We know that the debt level is quite high in most of the countries. Answer, yes, there was a debate just before the elections, and a report was made on the role of the Troika within the European Union. It led to a consensual vote. All reminded the negative impact of the austerity Troika measures as they are implemented by the Troika countries. Could it be challenged? Well, this will be one part of the package in the negotiations of the next President of the Commission. Will the Socialists and the Democrats be able to use some of the arguments? But I don't think that the whole Troika policy will be challenged in the months to come. Do you share this point of view? Question? Yes, I think it'll be quite difficult, says Doni, to challenge the whole austerity policy. But just look at what's happening in France. The French government said if they lost the elections, Europe is to be blamed and austerity has to be blamed. So they will try to get, once again, less austerity, which is a paradox. Because one of the countries with the least austerity measures is France. Look at Italy, where the government dared to implement measures that could go against people's will, and you can see there that the Socialist Party did quite well. It's one of the Socialist parties who did the best at European level. But of course this topic will be on the agenda. The first challenge of the next Parliament will be to elect a new President of the Commission. Despite the wave of protest and gains by anti-EU parties, there's little sign of a change of tack from the top man from the new European Parliament's largest party. The Conservative EPP leader Jean-Claude Juncker was quick to plant his flag to lead the next European Commission.
In the next coming days and weeks, we have to discuss not only posts and appointments, but that we have to discuss in depth substance. And I'm prepared to discuss substance mainly with the Socialist Party, because there is no majority outside the so-called Great Coalition between Christian Democrats and Socialists.
The EPP lost dozens of seats but still came out top. Juncker says he's confident of Angela Merkel's support. He brushed off questions about David Cameron's reported opposition. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban, citing various rows between his party and the EU establishment, has said why should he back someone from Luxembourg?
That's a problem between the EPP and Fidesz. I don't accept the argument that the fact that a former Luxembourgish minister was arguing in a particular way with the Hungarian government can be seen as an argument to exclude another Luxembourger from the presidency of the Commission. That's not really a noble argument.
The other main party leaders in Parliament have yet to back Juncker. Some heads of government will almost certainly have other ideas. The stage is set for some protracted horse trading.
Donc la grande question de ce soir, c'est
Jean-Claude
Juncker, hier soir s'est proclamé déjà vainqueur de cette élection,
Juncker, self-proclaimed victor of the elections, will he be our new future President of the European Commission? That's the question. Garach replies, well, the only problem with this new approach is that one day after the elections we still don't know the details of the rules and the rules of the game. The candidates introduce themselves. themselves. Some gathered a few votes, and today the EPP is ahead of all the others. But it's said that Juncker might not be the next president of the European Commission. It's not evident. He could be proposed to try and form a majority. Will he do it? We don't know. Question, what are the possible scenarios? Well, answer from Denis. First of all, I'd like to remind you that the European Parliament is going to elect the new president of the Commission, but the initiative will come from the Council. So there'll be a discussion at the level of the European Council. What about the scenario? You should realize that with the majority in the European Parliament, for the moment there is only one alliance that would give the necessary majority. It would be an alliance between the Socialists and the EPP, the European People's Party. Now, could this alliance favour the party that came first and choose Juncker, or are they going to opt for Schulz, Martin Schulz? On my personal view, I think that Juncker is more likely to win because he got the trust of most governments. Question, how much time will it take? Reply from Denis, it'll be quite fast. The first thing that will have to be done, what is the influence and the weight of each political party, of each political group? There are about 60 new MEPs, and we don't know which group they'll join. If some of these people join the EPP, which is being announced, and if they get more seats, in that case, the president of the Commission from the EPP will be quite logical, and this would have to be done in agreement with the Socialists, because there's no other possible majority. Question, do you share this point of view? Will it go that fast? Garach says yes, maybe, if the figures that we have are confirmed with quite more MEPs from the EPP, between 20 to 25 MEPs more, things could go much faster than planned. Question, except if Juncker doesn't get unanimity, then we know that in the UK, for instance, the Conservatives are against, so it won't be that easy for them to convince member states. Garach says yes, but there'll be a double vote. There'll be a simple majority in the European Parliament, so half of the MEPs will have to choose Juncker or someone else. And the European Council, it's qualified majority and not unanimity. Of course, they'll try to find a consensus. But if there is no consensus, the Council might not take into account Cameron's point of view. Question, there'll be a first summit tomorrow in... Do you think new names could pop out tomorrow? Denis says yes. The position of the European Parliament has always been to say that they will not elect a president imposed by the European Council, a name who would not correspond to the Spitzenkandidaten, the ones from the European Parliament. But the procedure has been totally imagined by the European Parliament. The main issue is that the rules of the game are not known. They're not clear. They tried to have a compromise between those who wanted to keep power in the European Council and those who wanted to give more power to the European Parliament. It's unprecedented. It's the first time that such an election designation takes place. It's still to be invented. Question, so the surprise could be a new name. Some spoke about Christine Lagarde. Garach says yes, many names were given out before the elections. Today it's impossible to say anything. The Parliament took public opinion as a witness and told people, we are here, we have 5 candidates, and one of those 5 candidates will be nominated. So we played our game, we respected our rules. One of these should be elected. Question, but Lagarde, Christine Lagarde comes from the same party as Juncker. Answer, yes, of course, but Juncker just discovered European democracy. He visited all European capitals. And according to what I saw, Mr. Juncker could get the support of many EPP heads of state, including the support of Angela Merkel. Sum up, thank you to all our guests for watching us and for taking part in this. Tomorrow we'll be back with the European Summit.